August 23rd meeting of the Ways and Means Committee will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Ansello? Here. Mr. Barra? Here. Dr. Carbone? Here. Mr. Delahanty? Here. Chairwoman Draw?
Here.
Mr. Felder? Here. Mr. Hebert?
Here.
Mr. Marianetti?
Here.
Mr. Morelli is excused. Mr. Moyo? Here. Mr. Rocco?
Here.
Will Legislator Baroth please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Are there any speakers signed up for the public forum?
There are not.
Then seeing no one here that would like to address this committee, then we will go to the approval of minutes. You have before you the July 19th joint meeting with the Education Committee in your folder, and they will stand approved unless the clerk is notified of any changes by the end of the day. The next item is on the agenda is new business. Madam Clerk.
Referral 16-0243.
Moved by Legislator Hebert and seconded by Legislator Carbone. Is there any discussion on this? Legislator Baroth.
Thank you. Through the chair of the administration, a quick question. How many other respondents for the request for qualifications were there?
Through the chair, Bob Burns from the Office of Probation. The RFP for this particular program was a year or two ago. I believe there were no other applicants other than the Delphi program.
Thank you. Just for clarification through the chair, you said RFP, it was RFQ, correct? Not RFP.
Through the chair, I believe that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry, Legislator Moyle? I'm sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, Madam Chair, to the administration. Have we contracted with Delphi in the past?
Through the chair, this contract, I believe, would be our third year of service with Delphi. The first several years were with Catholic Family Center. They did not apply the last time. So it might be our third round with Delphi.
And through the chair to the administration, we're satisfied with their work?
Through the chair, absolutely, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 16-0244.
Moved by Legislator Carbone and seconded by Legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion on this? Legislator Baroth.
Thank you. Through the chair of the administration, I understand we're receiving a grant for approximately $668,000, but we're only going to amend the grant budget for approximately $350,000, so a difference of about $330,000. Why is that?
Through the chair, John Clark from the Crime Lab. Partial funding was added to the operating budget, and this brings it to the full amount for the $668,000.
Thank you. Through the chair, however, when you say partial funding was added, that was added prior to receiving the grant award, correct? Through the chair?
Through the chair, that's correct. It was in our budget submission.
Thank you. So through the chair of the administration, does that mean that approximately $330,000 is going to go someplace else in the budget? As is supplemented by the $668,000 from the grant? Through the chair?
Madam Chair, actually, no, it doesn't go Madam Chair, no, the additional amount doesn't go anyplace else. It will get rolled over when the 2017 budget is adopted by the legislature.
Interesting. I'll keep that in mind coming in November. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next items, please.
Referral 16-0245.
Moved by Legislator Delahanty and seconded by Legislator Rocco. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 16-0246.
Moved by Legislator Rocco and seconded by Legislator Ansello. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 16-0247.
Moved by legislator Ansello and seconded by legislator Marionetti. Is there any discussion on this? Legislator Felder.
To the administration, the Sheriff's Department has undertaken an effort to recruit more minorities into the department. I know that Dr. Supnick was fired by the city from doing the evaluations for the police and firefighters because he seemed to have a disproportionate rate of disqualifying African Americans and Latinos from
I'm
the
sorry.
evaluations. I'm
Legisla-
wondering why why the county is still why the Sheriff's Department is still working with him when the city is no longer, because it seems to be, I don't know if we can call it bias, but for some reason it seemed to be he was disqualifying more minorities at a much higher rate than the general population.
So your question, legislators, through the chair, is a question.
Why we still have a contract with him? Why does the Sheriff's Department still have a contract with him?
Through the chair, Michael Fowler for the Sheriff's Office. First, I'm not in a position to comment on the City of Rochester's process in selecting their psychological associates. However, with ours, we continuously, every 3 years, go through the RFP process and reevaluate on an annual basis before extending the contracts. So our decisions are based upon the RFP process and the facts that we have at hand.
Any other discussion on that, on this referral? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? One nay. Legislator, is that recognized? Thank you.
Yes.
Next item, please.
Referral 16-0248.
Moved by legislator Marionetti and seconded by legislator Hebert. Is there any discussion on this? Legislator Baroff.
Thank you. Through the chair of the administration, how many inmates are expected to participate in this program?
Madam Chairman, I'm Ed Igneri from the Sheriff's Office, the Rehab Director. About 15 inmates in each class. I believe the contract calls for about 10 or 11 sessions total.
Thank you. And through the chair of the administration, is a session essentially a class?
Depends on the program. The sessions that are academic are 3 college credits and the equal amount of hours. The vocational programs vary from 20 to 30 hours.
Okay, so through the chair of the administration, then approximately 100 to 150 inmates will participate in this program?
Through the chair, yes, that's correct.
Thank you. And through the chair of the administration, do the participants have to pay any direct costs to participate?
Through the chair, no, they don't. The cost is borne by the Sheriff's Office through the Inmate Commissary Trust Fund.
Thank you. And the Commissary Trust Fund is funded in part by the inmates themselves, correct?
Through the chair, it's funded by the profits from the commissary to the sale to the inmates.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Legislator Moyle.
I believe this is the first year of the contract with MCC, so through the chair to the administration, is this the first year of the program, or has it been ongoing?
Through the chair, no, actually, we've had an agreement of this nature with MCC for the past 24, 25 years since the correctional facility opened in 1990. This agreement is as a result of an RFP that was done earlier this year.
Oh, okay, thank you. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 16-0249.
Moved by legislator Hebert and seconded by legislator Carbone. Is there any discussion on this? Legislator Baroff.
Thank you. Through the chair of the administration, I note that this is a significant decrease in funding, and my question is, has our overtime costs or overtime hours decreased similarly, or we just simply have to bear more of the overtime costs as a result of this decrease in funding? Through the chair.
Through the chair, the overtime was also increased.
Thank you. So through the chair of the administration, the grant is reflecting the actual overtime hours and not the other way around, correct?
Through the chair, that is correct.
Thank you. Then finally, through the chair of the administration, why is it that our overtime hours have decreased by about 2/3?
Through the chair, I have a question to ask. Are you talking about this particular referral or the overall OCDF funding?
This particular referral.
Through the chair, it's based on the number of hours they provide to the investigation. We provided this many hours of overtime to this particular investigation, so OCDF increased our funding because we had more overtime for this investigation.
Does that answer your question, Legislator Barath?
I think it does, actually. I'll think about this. I'm sure it'll come up again.
So they gave us a certain amount of funding at the very beginning of the investigation. It ended up we had more overtime than what they thought we were going to potentially have.
Okay. Right.
So they increased it to cover all of our expenses.
Okay, I understand. Thank you. Makes sense.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 16-0250.
Moved by Legislator Carbone and seconded by Legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 16-0251.
Moved by Legislator Delahanty and seconded by Legislator Rocco. Is there any discussion on this? Legislator Barath.
Thank you. Through the chair of the administration, has this the project actually commenced yet?
Through the chair, what commenced?
The project overall with the town of Irondequoit.
Through the chair, it is not. They just opened bids late
Right.
last week.
Thank you. And then through the chair of the administration, do we have a guesstimate on when it would be scheduled to begin if all goes well?
Through the chair, the town is going to start some of the work. They're doing some work themselves, removal some trees and stuff. And then the contractor, I think, is supposed to begin sometime in September, provided it goes through and gets approved by the town board of Irondequoit.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 16-0252.
Moved by Legislator Rocco and seconded by Legislator Ansello. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 16-0253.
Moved by Legislator Ansello and seconded by Legislator Marionetti. Is there any discussion on this? Legislator Moyle.
Madam Chair, through the chair and to the administration, how many cases of tuberculosis were treated last year in Monroe County?
Through the chair, I believe it was 19.
Thank you. And through the chair to the administration, is that up or down from the previous few years?
Through the chair, we've averaged approximately 20 cases for the last 5 years.
Thank you. And through the chair to the administration, is that comparable nationally or within the state to a population of Monroe County size?
Through the chair, on a case per 100,000 basis, we are comparable to counties like Erie and Onondaga.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 16-0254.
Moved by Legislator Marionetti and seconded by Legislator Hebert. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 16-0255.
Moved by Legislator Hebert and seconded by Legislator Carbone. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 16-0256.
Moved by legislator Carbone and seconded by legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 16-0257.
Moved by legislator Delahanty and seconded by legislator Rocco. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 16-0258.
Moved by legislator Rocco and seconded by legislator Ansello. Is there any discussion on this? Legislator Baroth.
Thank you. Through the chair of the administration, I have an odd question here, and it has to do with the period of time for the contract. It begins November 24th, 2016. I'm just curious why that date for approximately 7 months' time frame.
Through the chair, Mike Sayers from Public Health. We use other grant funding for the earlier part of the year to cover that contract. The contract normally is an annual contract that has 2 grant funding sources.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Referral 16-0260.
Moved by legislator Ansello and seconded by legislator Marionetti. Is there any discussion on this? Legislator Baroth?
Through the chair of the administration, I have a couple questions about this. First off, I know that we're essentially adding about $80 million worth of debt to the county. Is that going to have how much of a percentage increase is that for the total debt? I know it's small. Do you have an idea of how much it is in comparison to our current debt?
Madam Chair, just to be clear, this is authorization to issue up to $80 million. Realistically speaking, the actual amount of debt will likely be less, and that amount will become apparent when we go to market next month. As far as adding debt to the county's overall debt, Monroe County carries in the ballpark of $550 million. This adds another $80 million. Common benchmarks are the amount of debt per taxable value. We are at 0.8%. This $80 million will not change that ratio.
Thank you. So through the chair of the administration, will this have any sort of effect, negative or positive, on our credit rating?
Madam Chair, this probably will have a neutral impact on our credit rating. The major reporting entities like S&P, Moody's already reference our appropriation-backed debt associated with the service agreements in our rating report. So the fact that we're swapping out appropriation-backed debt for general obligation is pretty much credit neutral.
Okay, so through the chair of the administration, essentially credit rating authorities assumed it was our debt in the first place.
Correct, Madam Chair.
Okay. Through the chair of the administration, I know you don't know for sure because you have to take it to the market first, but do you have an educated guess on what sort of interest rate we should be able to get for these bonds?
Madam Chair, working with our municipal advisor, we're estimating, given current market conditions, we'll probably issue in the range of, the ballpark of $72 million in debt at a premium of about $8 million to get us the $80 million required. Market rates are very favorable to the county. They have been for the past year. Quite incredibly, when we went to market past June, this county broke the record in terms of low interest rate. On average, on a 20-year, I think we went to market with about $60 million, $65 million over a 20-year maturity series. Average interest was roughly 2%.
Nice.
I would expect this market conditions are pretty much the same, slightly more favorable than they were back in June. So I would estimate the same.
Okay, so that sounds like a fair estimate. Through the chair of the administration, and I know I should know this, but I'm blanking, what is the current interest rate that the LDCs are paying on their debts through the chair that we essentially have to pay for them?
Madam Chair, I do have that information. I just got to flip to the right page. Chair, UTC is actually estimated at a 3.94 coupon. Monroe Security and Safety is currently a 4.85. Monroe New Power actually has variable coupons that spans the range of 3.94 to 6.375.
I'm sorry, the last number I missed through the chair?
Monroe New Power's coupons span different interest rates depending on the maturity. Those rates span from a 3.94 to a 6.375.
Good Lord. Okay. Then, so this is clearly an improvement, monumentally. Through the chair of the administration, do we have an estimate on the savings moving forward, assuming the 2%?
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I didn't catch the full question.
Assuming that we refinance or we bond at 2%, and we're happy to go with that assumption, do we have an estimate on what the savings will be moving forward on the coupons you referenced?
Madam Chair, the net present value savings are in excess of $9 million. On a gross basis, it's in excess of $12 million.
And then through the chair of the administration, clearly, and I realize unless things have changed, you will not have the information regarding how much nicer it would have been if we had done this prior years, so I'm not going to ask that question.
That's a statement, I believe.
Pardon me?
I believe that's a statement.
Yes, since I'm not asking the question,
Okay.
I'll simply say that is my belief. But through the chair of the administration, how long has it been that we've had interest rate environment such that the savings you're talking about would have been achievable in the past?
Madam Chair, the current interest rate environment has been in place since the middle of last year, even a little later than that. Market conditions have dramatically changed over this past several years. I would remind you, Madam Chair, that some of these entities went to market in 2010, maybe not right smack in the middle, but certainly right at the time of the credit crunch that this nation and all nations faced after the 2008 and 2009 recession. In 2009, we were hard-pressed to go to market, Madam Chair.
That makes sense. And then finally, through the chair of the administration, do we have an understanding of what are the total, any other additional costs that might be associated from taking on the bonding from these 3 LDCs, if there's any additional costs involved?
Madam Chair, I'm not sure specifically, but there are bond issuance costs, but those bond issuance costs will be paid out of the bond proceeds. Is that the question?
Yes, that was the question. Thank you. But that's it, through the chair. There's nothing else.
Madam Chair, we expect most of the maturities to be insured, so there will be bond insurance premiums coming out of the bond proceeds or the premium. Cost of issuance would include bond counsel, the municipal advisor. There are legal fees that we are under. The LDCs are under contract with Barclay Damon. Now that's an LDC expense. That's not a county expense. There should be really no other costs associated with this issuance.
Thank you. For clarification, however, through the chair of the administration, you mentioned that the legal costs were an LDC expense and not a county expense. My understanding is that the LDC expenses are all county expenses ultimately.
Madam Chair, to be fair, the LDCs are component units of Monroe County, and their financial position is reflected in our annual CAFR. But those checks are written by the LDC. Once those operations are absorbed back into Monroe County's operations, I guess then I would say that the comment is a fair comment.
Thank you. Finally, through the chair of the administration, after this process is resolved, we actually issue the bonds and such, how much other debt will the county have from the remaining LDCs? As you mentioned, the credit authorities do in fact look at those as being part of our debt burden.
Madam Chair, the county is looking at dissolving the Civic Center parking garage LDC. They don't have any bonded debt. They do have small portion of a previous loan that's outstanding. I want to say it's in the ballpark of $500,000. Realistically, to merge that operation back into the county will be a cash transaction, not a bonding transaction.
Unless something unusual occurred through the chair, correct?
Madam Chair, yeah, pretty unusual. I can't even think of something unusual to change the financial position of the garage.
Thank you. So one final question, because I did not realize there was a plan or discussion about dissolving the LDC associated with the Civic Center. Is there a timeline associated with that?
So-
Through the chair?
So Legislator Baroth, Legislator Baroth, we're really on just this, for these particular LDCs. I mean, for another time, that's not in this referral, so I'd like to, if you have a question about that, there'll be another time to ask that. Because we're talking specifically about these.
Then I'll rephrase. Through the chair.
These three LDCs is what we're
Correct.
specifically.
Through the chair of the administration, I assume that the administration is looking at the process of dissolving these three LDCs and will apply the lessons learned to any future dissolvement. Is that correct? Through the chair?
Certainly, Madam Chair.
That's,
Go with that.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Oh, I shouldn't do that, sorry. Is there any other matters to come before this committee? Seeing no other matters, the next meeting of the Ways and Means will be held September 27th at 6 p.m. Thank you. Everyone have a good Labor Day weekend.